Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Paul, the Canadian Snowman, here once again with some more Vikings. This is episode 4. We've done 3 other videos on our awesome Viking series, and I thought it was actually kind of over after those 3 videos, but then they said there was a couple more videos, but yet the playlist only had 3 videos in it, so it didn't really make much sense. But maybe because this is like there's a big time jump between the last 3 videos and this. I think it's like 150 years or so. So this is going to be really interesting in the fact that I have no idea what's happened the past 150 years. When we left off, I mean, basically, it was like King Alfred. There's a son or so, but England kind of got basically the Vikings took over the north of Britain, and then you had, I guess, the English took over the Anglo-Saxon. I don't know. I'm confused with that. Uh, so which one's which? Anyway, we'll say the Vikings and then the non-Vikings. But yeah, the Vikings kind of had the control of the north, and yeah, and the English have control of the south, right? I'll just go with that. But yeah, so it'll be interesting to see with this time jump if it's still the same way, if or if some land has been swapped since then. I wouldn't think there'd be that big of a jump or bit because there would have been. I think there would have been like a war or a video on it. In the meantime, right? They wouldn't just jump to this one, like the Battle of Fulford and Stamford Bridge. I don't know what that is or where that is. 1066. I'm guessing we're having another Viking battle, pretty much, right? I think so. I don't know. I don't know. We're gonna jump into this video anyways. Please hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't yet. And if this is your first video watching, you should definitely check out the beginning of the series, unless you kind of already knew what happens or you've already seen that part of the series. But anyways, this is gonna be a great video. Hopefully, it's Kings and Generals. They always make great videos, so I think it goes without saying that this is gonna be pretty cool. Do-do-do. 3, 2, 1. Bam. Oops, I hit the wrong. What I hit? I guys, the wrong button here. There we go.
Fall of Anglo-Saxon England in 1066. In this,
Anglo-Saxon England, okay.
one of the most active years of many in English military history, one monarch died, and 3 ambitious claimants from all over Europe battled it out for the crown of an island kingdom. The clash between Harold Hardrada, Harold Godwinson, and William of Normandy heralded the death of 2 eras and the ushering of a new one. Welcome to our video on the year 1066 and the battles of Fulford and Stamford Bridge. If you're struggling to plan your next...
Okay, so basically, are they saying like this video is going to be the moment where England is kind of like, England or, Britain, the whole island is like basically unified, the moment where, there's one king rules it all. Because I don't think I've seen a video ever on how that came to be. So this would be really cool and interesting. This looks like a commercial, so we're kind of going to skip ahead. And I think this should be right.
In the description below. On January 5th, 1066 AD, Edward the Confessor, Anglo-Saxon monarch of England for 24 years, lay on his deathbed, surrounded by his...
So, okay, yeah, it's definitely different than it was before, but kinda. You get the Welsh over here, which apparently they decide does not deserve a color. And then you got the purple here, England, and then you got Scotland, and then where's it a lot? Norway? Okay. Didn't realize Norway was also part of, Britain at one time. So that's interesting. So obviously I'm assuming Scotland kind of takes over Norway, and then because we all know, like, I've seen a bunch of movies or whatnot about, the Scots in England always going at it, and or whatnot. So I'm sure at this point it's all going to become one, after this couple of videos. I don't know, but I'm excited to find out.
Monarch of England for 24 years lay on his deathbed, surrounded by his important men and close kin. Edward, who was without a direct heir, entrusted the realm to England's most powerful nobleman, Harold Godwinson. Meeting only hours later, the council confirmed Harold as their king. The next day, the new king was crowned as Harold II. However, there were those who were not going to let the new king reign in peace. To the Duke of Normandy, William, that throne promised to him by Edward on multiple occasions was usurped by a man with whom he had broken bread in the past. William had grown strong through kinship ties, castle.
Every time a king dies, there's always going to be some kind of controversy, unless it's actually his son. Unless he only has like one son and he's at like, adult age or something. Other than that, it feels like I guess it's usually only when there is no like son or daughter, there's no direct descendant, then it's always this big uproar of who is it going to be. But isn't usually like basically whoever controls like, the castle in London, usually that's the person that usually stays there. He isn't usually the one that kind of invades and try and take it over. That one usually fails, doesn't it? I'm probably completely wrong. It probably happens all the time throughout this history, but anyways. Let's see how this plays out. Watch this. I'm going to be wrong right now, and William's going to go over here and take it from him.
In the past, William had grown strong through kinship ties, castle building, and military conquest, becoming France's greatest noble in the process, ready to take the English throne by force. Summoning his vassals and their retinues, William sent emissaries to England and the Pope, reiterating his claim. Harold responded to this by citing the late king's dying wish. The Pope, however, whose domain in Italy was under the thumb of other Norman lords, gave his blessing to William's plan to seize the English throne. While the Norman vassals gradually convened, Godwinson marched to York to secure support from his northern earls Edwin and Morcar. As this was happening, the king's exiled brother Tostig restlessly darted between the courts of William, Svein of Denmark, and finally Harald Hardrada of Norway, seeking his restoration to the earldom of Northumbria. Finally, Tostig convinced King Harold to invade his brother's kingdom. Soon after, a fleet was built and warriors mustered in preparation for the upcoming voyage. Tostig himself sailed south in May with a small force after promising to rendezvous with the Norwegian king, and began raiding the southern English coast. Perceiving an existential threat from the covetous Norman duke, and receiving news that his brother was on a plundering spree, Harold mustered the kingdom's professional Huscarl warriors, raised the feared militia, and moved with considerable speed to the Channel coast. Tostig, catching wind of Harold's approach, backed away and sailed north to unify with his Norwegian ally. The king decided to remain where he was, carefully watching William in confidence that the northern barons would be able to take care of themselves. Tostig's 60 vessels attempted to launch a few raids on Lindsey, but Edwin and Morcar's combined forces managed to push Tostig.
I feel like, I don't know, man. Like, he's definitely feels kind of like a Viking, He's just trying to take opportunities to raid, and anytime like a force comes that, might be able to match him, he runs away, There's a little brother just trying to, get attention over here, it seems like. I wonder how this works out for him.
But Edwin and Morcar's combined forces managed to push Tostig's warband back out onto the North Sea. Undaunted, he continued sailing north to rendezvous with Harold. In mid-August, at about the same time William was making his final preparations at the port of Dives, Hardrada cast off for the British Isles at the head of a fleet of ships 300 strong, with just over 10,000 men. After first making a pit stop at the Shetland Islands and then at the Orkneys, Harold made the jump to Scotland proper, uniting with Tostig. Sailing on to his main objective, Harold Hardrada brutally ravaged Scarborough and other English coastal towns before pushing into the Humber estuary. The Norse invasion force was so large that Morcar, the Earl of the region, pulled his own fleet of ships back up the Ouse River and eventually sequestered them at Tadcaster. With little chance of taking York by surprise, Harold and his warriors disembarked 10 miles downriver at the village of Rickhall. Edwin and Morcar, who had hastily raised additional troops from their respective feuds, discovered the invaders' landing point and closed on them on September 20th. The two armies came together for battle on the right bank of the River Ouse at a place known as Fulford Gate.
Here we go.
Harold did not bring all of his forces to the attack on York, leaving some to guard the fleet, and had about 6,000 warriors at his command at Fulford, drawn up with their left flank anchored on the Ouse, and their right adjacent to an area of difficult-to-traverse marshland. The Norwegian king was stationed right next to the river, accompanied by his most elite fighters and the greater portion of his army. Tostig, meanwhile, manned the weaker right with his Flemish mercenaries. Of the 5,000 or so Anglo-Saxon soldiers, 3,000 of Morcar's Northumbrians opposed Tostig next to the bog. Next to them, 2,000 under Edwin faced Hardrada's weighted flank next to the Ouse. The greater portion of each earl's force consisted of fjord levies, bolstered by a smaller number of the elite Huscarls.
So I'm assuming this display right here, the armor. I know this is a video game, but is this kind of accurate about what these people would have been wearing at that point? They actually, wouldn't think they would have this kind of uniform. As far as I'm sure, everyone's kind of have their own army, kind of dressed in their own way. They wouldn't have the exact same. I don't think back then. They didn't make armor have an assembly line with it, where every soldier had the same thing. I mean, people are kind of just fighting for their own village and everything. I know no one cares about this, but just kind of interested to see what you guys think. If everyone kind of dressed the same like this, or this is just kind of way off. It's just a game. Anyway.
The English nobles could have viably remained ensconced behind a defensive shield wall to exact a bloody toll from the invaders. However, Harold Hardrada's guileful deployment of the hated Tostig on his teasingly vulnerable right flank was far too good of an opportunity for Morcar to pass up. He fell right into the trap. Fearing nothing from Tostig's skill at arms after the latter's feeble raiding on Lindsey, a relatively inexperienced Morcar charged his wing straight at the king's estranged brother. As was almost certainly expected by the battle's Norse puppet master, Tostig's feeble flank shattered upon the vigorous impact, carved open by the advance of Morcar's warriors. Most armies unaccustomed to the din of battle would have fled after witnessing such a defeat, but Harold's warriors were hardened veterans, forged in decades of war with Denmark. Rather than running in terror as the English would have expected, the numerically superior Norse left charged at their king's command and—
Dang, I was actually expecting Harold to flank him, come behind here and squish him. I was totally what I was expecting. And, but no, he basically goes in initiative and charges forward. Yeah, I guarantee, I'm pretty sure they didn't expect that at all. And these guys are too occupied, fighting forward to know what's going on behind them. So, wow.
And smashed Edwin's line opposite them, sending it into retreat towards York and inflicting terrible casualties.
You guys are screwed.
It might have been that seeing the Mercians routed destroyed Morcar's morale, or that reinforcements sent by Harold tipped the scales, but however it happened, the Northumbrian Earl fled also, and his men were massacred. King Harold and Tostig had won, and with victory achieved, the Norse army took position once again at their base near Rickall. As the invaders set about securing York via negotiation, Harold Godwinson was racing north at a blistering pace. The king had been forced to disband his army on September 8th, when provisions ran dry, but upon learning of the Norwegian invasion not long after that, the host was summoned once again. With all the strength he could quickly raise, Harold beelined north, utilizing mounts and the old Roman road to cover an unprecedented 190 miles in 5 days. He arrived at Tadcaster unnoticed on September 24th. As Harold's conquest of England was set to be a lengthy one, the Norsemen required food and other supplies to continue their campaign. Moreover, the invaders had arranged to receive 150 sons of York's leading citizens as hostages in exchange for 150 Vikings, a trade which would secure the city. The pre-arranged place for both of these tithes was Stamford Bridge, a crossing of the Derwent River northeast of York. Harold's lax and satisfied troops spent that night at Rickall, blissfully unaware that a large retaliatory army was so close by. When morning came, Hardrada, Tostig, and about 2/3 of the Norse king's army marched out to the rendezvous point, keen to receive both captives and reprovisioning. Because they weren't expecting any trouble, and the march between Rickall and Stamford Bridge was reasonably long, the commanders allowed the victorious warriors of Fulford to march without their mail armour. While the invaders were manoeuvring, Godwinson, who had rested his soldiers the previous night, marched through York itself. The destination of his army was Stamford Bridge, where he knew the enemy to be. There, a short while later, chroniclers describe how the thoroughly unprepared Norse host, split on the west and east banks of the Derwent, saw an ominous cloud of dust being kicked up on the Roman road. As the cloud slowly got closer, the sight of armour and weaponry could be seen glinting. Harold had arrived. The manpower present at this final clash of the Viking Age varies wildly for both Norsemen and Anglo-Saxons, and it is hardly possible to know for sure. However, it is likely that Harold Godwinson was able to bring about 10,000 to 13,000 troops to bear, of which about 2,000 to 3,000 were cavalry. Harold Hardrada initially had 6,000 on the field, 2,000 on the bank with the approaching English, and 4,000 beyond the bridge. Roughly 3,000 had remained to guard the Norwegian fleet at Rickall under Eystein Ore. Stationed on an area of high ground on the eastern bank, when Harold Hardrada saw what appeared for all intents and purposes to be an approaching army, he summoned Tostig and hurriedly asked him who it could be. Tostig warned that it was probably some kind of hostile force, but found it equally probable to be a force seeking an alliance. The English king had come north so quickly that neither man even entertained the possibility that it was him.
What?
However, as the mysterious force came closer, it became clear that a large battle was about to occur. Whether they were wrangling cattle on either side of the river or guarding the Derwent Bridge, Hardrada's warriors armed themselves and turned to face the approaching English royal army.
Dang.
Before
This had disaster waiting for Totus and Harold. I mean, they're all over the place right now. They don't know what's going on. Totally unprepared. Don't even have their armor on. And then you got the king back here. I mean, you see, he got to rest his army for a day, but they're probably still a little bit tired, right? But they got I guess that one day of resting probably all they need. But they have full armor on. They're going there into battle. They know exactly why they're going there and probably what's going to happen against a totally unprepared army. just definitely can have like slaughter written all over it. I mean, if you're a herald over here, I think that all you can really do is just retreat. Just get your butt, retreat as far back as you can, get your army, together, and get your armor on, and then take them on. Like, I don't think you'd want to get them heads on right now, unless you're afraid the cavalry might get you from behind while you retreat. I don't know.
Battle was joined, however, by the army. Before battle was joined, however, Harold Godwinson posed as his own herald and met Harold Hardrada, as well as Tostig, at the crossing for a parley, accompanied by 20 of his best huscarls. This face-off between siblings appears to have been a moment of supreme drama, with Harold promising Tostig his previous earldom upon return to the Godwinson fold. Not only that, but he would also receive 1/3 of all England as a reward for deserting Hardrada. Tostig asked what the fate of his Norwegian ally would be, and the Anglo-Saxon king supposedly responded, "We will give him 7 feet of ground, or as much more as he needs. He is taller than other men." The younger brother replied that he wouldn't have it said that Tostig Godwinson brought the King of Norway to England just to then betray him. Tostig then turned on his horse and rode away. With negotiations at an unsuccessful end, Hardrada and Tostig frantically began organizing their chaotically arrayed warriors into a cohesive battle formation, whilst simultaneously withdrawing the men gathering cattle beyond the river. Most of the 2,000 stragglers managed to get over the Derwent before the Anglo-Saxons closed in. But if Godwinson took the bridge now, there wouldn't be enough time to form up regardless. Fortunately for the invaders, a dogged vanguard of Norse warriors held Harold's attacking army at bay for far longer than expected. It is said that when most of the Norwegian warriors had retreated across the river, one lone Norseman called to surrender by Harold's van, this armoured Viking instead fought on alone, holding the narrow crossing against the entire Anglo-Saxon army for some time. Fighting with a fearsome battle axe, the unknown warrior killed 40 enemies before being slain.
I'm guessing this is all. Obviously, we don't know this. We know that history is always glorified more than it probably was. So I just find it hard to believe that one guy just took down 40 guys by himself. I mean, I can see one guy taking 40 people down as being part of an army, but if you're one guy and you have even like 5 guys, they're going to swallow you whole. There's just no way. I can't see that happening. But I think it's an awesome story, though. If it did go down, man, that guy's amazing. They definitely need a name for that dude if that's what happened.
This late hour, Tostig advised a retreat to the Norse monarch and to fight when conditions were better, but Hardrada declined. Realizing his whole army would be required if any victory was to be achieved, Hardrada dispatched riders to Rickall, ordering his remaining 3,000 to march to their king's aid at once. The situation was by no means optimal, but the smaller Norse army had managed to deploy on the crest of a small hill known as the Battle Flats. Aimed at disrupting Harold's cavalry, its formation was a long but shallow shield wall, whose flanks were angled slightly back. As the last Norwegian units were getting into position, and Harold Godwinson's host began drawing up at the foot of the slope, a small Anglo-Saxon cavalry contingent launched a blunt force charge straight at the invaders' wall of shields. At first, although suffering casualties and attacks on its flank, the Norwegians stood stalwart against Harold's mounted assault, even inflicting some return damage via arrow fire. Suddenly, however, the English horse broke and ran away, either a genuine response to suffering terrible losses or a feigned retreat. Smelling blood in the metaphorical water, Hardrada ordered his veteran army to take advantage and charge down.
Wow. Obviously, it looks like kind of a setup right here, because these guys look like they're ready to flank them. They made them look like they're kind of retreating to run away, and now they're gonna basically get in from behind here. It seems like.
On the slope, breaking the hitherto successful shield wall in the process. Observing this, Harold's infantry advanced and met the ferociously charging but disorganized Vikings with well-ordered ranks of spearmen and war axes, halting them without significant effort. In this brutal melee, it is said that the massive King of Norway fought like a lion with neither armor or a shield, swinging weapons in each hand and slaying any enemy soldier unfortunate enough to cross his path. Meanwhile, Anglo-Saxon mounted forces wheeled over to the flanks and wrapped around Hardrada's army, assailing it from virtually every side.
Wow.
Suddenly, Hardrada's throat was penetrated by an arrow and he fell dead in an instant. Tostig inherited command of the beleaguered Norse army and pulled back slightly in an attempt to re-establish a now diminished shield wall. For a final time, Harold Godwinson offered peace to all of his remaining enemies, but pride and a need to take revenge for their king's honourable death led Tostig and the others to refuse.
Come on, Tostig. You already got like a golden opportunity before this battle even took place on the bridge, and now like you're not betraying the king because he's already dead. I mean, uh, I guess he doesn't want to do it. He does not want to. He does not want to bow down to his brother. A sibling rivalry here, and he does not want to admit defeat. Oh, dude, I don't think a third chance is coming up there, dude. I don't think your brother's gonna do it a third time.
Their meagre manpower was too little to form an effective defense, and soon they were killed.
Wow.
When the last Vikings were fleeing or dying, the 3,000 fully armoured reinforcements from Rickall arrived under Harald Hardrada's son-in-law, Eystein Ori. Consumed with fury upon seeing the corpses of their countrymen, the reinforcing contingent attacked, but were smashed in short order. Tired of the slaughter, Harold Godwinson subsequently marched straight to Rickall and bluntly informed the scant few remaining Norse, led by Hardrada's son Olaf, what had occurred. Believing more conflicts here were pointless, the king took hostages and oaths before letting Olaf sail away with the invading army's remnant. The sources relate how a host that had taken 300 ships to come required a mere 20 to leave. Just as it seemed as though Harold Godwinson's reign was secure, affairs in the south turned critical, as the Duke of Normandy, William, was recruiting an army to attack England. Our video on the iconic Battle of Hastings will be released next Sunday, so make sure you are subscribed and have pressed the bell button. Please consider liking, commenting and sharing.
Wow, so we got that battle coming up next. Aw, cool. This is pretty cool. It's very awesome kind of seeing England take its shape, Britain take its shape, I'm really digging this. uh, wow. Okay, so they got the Vikings taken care of now. Now they got to take care of like the French, pretty much, Is this kind of where like the whole like French, like Britain rivalry starts, William's gonna come up here and now try and stamp his, foothold in England and try and take over as king. Oh wow, I'm excited about that. I want to see how this takes the Holy Roman Empire. It's alive and breathing right now. I'm sorry, just 30 Years War, guys. Check that one out. Check that playlist out. But yeah, this is really cool. I'm really liking this. I just like seeing how things unfold, and just how things end up coming to be and, all that good stuff. So anyways, please hit that like and subscribe button below. Let me know what you guys think of this series. You guys think it's pretty cool, we could kind of get to kind of see how things take shape, I think it's pretty awesome. But anyways, yeah, like and subscribe, guys. Catch you guys in future videos. And yeah, awesome stuff here. Vikings. I'm assuming The next episode probably won't have many Vikings in it because they kind of just died. So it feels like it's kind of like the French versus the English, kind of, even though it's part of the Viking series. But anyways, yeah, we're gonna catch on to this next one here next. And yeah, like, subscribe, and appreciate you guys watching. You guys are amazing. You guys have a great night, great day, or whatever. And I'm out of here. Peace.